Part 38. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 371. Chapter 371. Are Ji-Huan and I both dead? Gu Si had already guessed this. When Zhang Junlin mentioned it, she was not surprised, but it was earlier than she expected. I'm still in my first year of college. Is it too early to take over the post of Ji Dao? She is young and is Zhang Junlin's younger sister, so I'm afraid she won't be able to convince the public. I have thought about this question many times. I have been thinking about it since I was in Paris prison. My identity has been exposed, and the Yakuza has only one master. I can be in charge of the Yakuza dark network and the Yakuza at the same time. In the past, I wanted to be the master of the Yakuza. It is to protect the existence of the Yakuza dark web. We don't want the dark web to be exposed. The master of the Yakuza is the gatekeeper. Although the management system of the Yakuza is not exposed, many people still know about it. Do you want to recommend another dark master? I'm very hesitant. In fact, only the people of Jidao and Black Eagle know about it. They have a sense of restraint and don't dare to talk nonsense. Even if they tell the truth, he has too many things to take care of. The Jidao dark network takes up almost 2/3 of my time, and my identity is known to Mr. Zhang and others. I will have to deal with more things in the future. I need someone who I trust very much. If something happens to me, when you are unable to move, take charge of the extreme. Not only must he be the master of the extreme realm, but he must also be able to manage the extreme realm when something happens to him. A fish was hooked, and Zhang Junlin stopped his fishing rod. He caught a silver carp weighing almost 3 kilograms. Zhang Junlin chuckled, "This fish is good, I will have fish soup for dinner." Gu Si listened quietly to Zhang Junlin's analysis. After putting down the fish, Zhang Junlin rebaited it and threw it into the river. He continued, "North is fine, but she betrayed me. I can continue to use her without any grudges, but it is difficult to give 100% trust, not to mention that Little Cherry is by my side. She can do anything for Little Cherry. Many things can be done in just a thought. I dare not bet on Little Cherry, she is suitable. Being a soldier is not suitable for being a general. As for Zhang Qiang, I trust them enough, but the situation is the same as that of Little Cherry. There are specialties, and I can't find anyone to take their place. The management system of Jida is different from that of Black Eagle. Lu Ziwen can let Ji Sun and Rong Li handle the business. We can't. We are a knife, making every decision. We must be cautious and responsible. It is because of my excessive pride that I have not been able to train a second person to take over. The 11 directors of the Jidao Dark Network are equivalent to the status of Ji Sun and Rong Li in Black Hawk, but Zhang Junlin cannot use them as freely as Lu Ziwen. Lu Ziwen didn't care whose hands the Black Eagle fell into. Zhang Junlin has to be very cautious in dealing with every instruction of the Jidao Dark Network. If there is a mistake, it will cost the lives of countless people. With Ji Xian's temperament, it is absolutely impossible for him to take over the Jidao Dark Network. If he takes over, he will definitely stir up trouble and cause trouble. Xiaosai has the same temperament as Ji Xian, even crazier, but Xiaosai is in Paris. If he could give up decisively during the rescue, he knew that Xiaosai could do it. Another very important point is that you can be like a fish in water in the financial market and can control Lu Ziwen. This makes it more secure for you to be the leader. Brother, you don't need to mention that I can contain Lu Ziwen. I know very well that no matter whether I have a relationship with Lu Ziwen or not, I am your best choice. Gu Si said softly, "You allow me to think about it for a few days. May I?" "Of course," Zhang Junlin said with a chuckle, "you should think about it carefully. If you really want to take office, you have to wait until your mental state is more stable. Brother, Master is not suitable because she betrayed you. She would give her all for Little Cherry. What about me, Gu Xi took a deep breath and suppressed the pain in her heart. If one day, Lu Ziwen's life is at stake, I will also. Zhang Junlin moved the fishing rod gently, and the buoy floated in the river. He interrupted Gu Xi and said, "If this day comes, brother will help you." The tip of Gu Xi's nose was sore. How could she have such a good brother? Okay, Gu Xi chuckled and said, "I will try my best to cooperate with master's treatment. I promised my brother because I hope that my brother can live more comfortably. I also want to protect you and this family. After knowing the behemoth of the Jideo Darnet, I have to think twice before doing anything or speaking. I don't dare to talk about love, and I don't dare to talk about love. I have loyalty engraved in my bones. I have worked hard every day for 10 years and lived too cautiously." After this incident, both Zhang Junlin and Gu Xi realized that the Jideo Dark Network needed someone to replace Zhang Junlin. Consider conduct but forget profit, keep integrity but uphold righteousness. Zhang Junlin touched her head and said, "It's my brother who can't help you and makes you tired." Gu Xi's eyes were slightly red. "We are a family, and we should help and support each other." Zhang Junlin caught another silver carp, in pairs. Zhang Junlin breathed a long sigh of relief and asked Gu Xi, "Xiao Xi, are Ji Sun and I, both dead?" Gu Xi's pupils shrank, and her heart hurt. She knew exactly what Zhang Junlin asked. "When Gu Zhiwen and Lu Shijia were engaged, I accidentally injured Lu Shijia and went to prison. I was released from prison 5 years later and married Lu Ziwen, so my brother didn't see her. Pass me." Gu Zhiwen revealed her life experience: robbed Hualan Bank, and sent someone to hit her brother, so your legs were broken and you were imprisoned by Ji Xian. Impossible, Zhang Junlin categorically objected. She doesn't have this IQ, and she doesn't have this ability. If I were to have my legs disabled by Gu Zhiwen, my 28 years would have been in vain. After I was released from prison, I have always had low self-esteem because of my disfigurement and severed hands. I didn't interact with the outside world, and I didn't recognize you. I heard a lot of the news." Gu Xi glanced at him cautiously, and after getting along with Zhang Junlin for so many days, he also felt that Zhang Junlin did not have the temperament he had been rumored to have. "After you broke your leg, there were changes in your family one after another. Grandpa and grandma both died of illness. You were hit hard and fell into despair. You became drunk and degenerate. Later, Hualan Bank it fell into Gu Zhiwen's hands." "Wait a minute." Zhang Junlin didn't even bother to take the bait. "Who did you hear this news from?" "Ji Sun." "Is there a possibility that this little is lying to you?" Gu Xi saw Zhang Junlin's expression of rejecting this kind of persona and shook his head. "I have seen you drinking in a wheelchair." Zhang Junlin turned his head silently and stared at the buoy in the river. He suddenly raised his fishing rod and caught another silver carp. His tone was calm. "You continue." "Brother, that's all I know. I had a grudge in my heart and was very withdrawn. You were also indifferent after the accident, so we didn't have much interaction. Later, Lu Ziwen died before Ziyu was born. Ziyu and I have always been Lijiang with Ji Sun protecting me. I was always in a daze. Later, I heard that Ji Sun had captured the Black Eagle, and then I died. Ziyu didn't tell me what happened next. I didn't ask about what happened next." End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 372. Chapter 372, Some things still need to be considered. Why was Lu Ziwen so incompetent? He died so early. How could you and Ziyu survive? How could Ji Sun and Li Zhang be protected? Zhang Junlin felt sorry for Gu Xi and was even more dissatisfied with Lu Ziwen. No wonder it was an accident. He died to protect me and Ziyu. I was too cowardly and inferior, so I took him as my faith. When he is gone, my heart is dead. The most sinful thing is Ziyu, The person I feel most sorry for is Ziyu. Gucci's eyes were red. I am really grateful to God that he is so healthy and happy now. Is it Guchawiyun? Gucci nodded. I know very little about the events of my previous life. She considered becoming the leader of the extreme Dao, firstly for Zhang Junlin, and secondly for herself. She could no longer be a blind and deaf Gucci, who did not know what was happening in the outside world, did not understand the world, and lived only for one person. If fate is unfair and tragedy strikes again, she must have enough strength to protect those around her. Zhang Junlin was doubtful about this story, not because he suspected that Gucci was lying, but because he doubted what kind of story it was. No matter which part it was outrageous. Lu Ziwen died young. He was depressed due to his broken leg and was imprisoned by Ji Sun for the rest of his life. This was outrageous. If Ziyasai only returned to the year when she was 18, then her life experience before she was 18 would not change, and neither would he and Lu Ziwen. Ji Sun was guarding them, and he was still involved with Ji Sun as proof. Then Lu Ziwen is the third master of Black Eagle, and he is also the master of the Ji-Dao Dark Network. Why was he plotted by Gu Chawiyun and Lu Shija? Lu Ziwen actually took Xiao Ci to live in seclusion and did not kill Gu Chawiyun and Lu Shija. Isn't this outrageous? Even if his legs are broken, he will never be a depressed person. He has revenge, and his enemies are free and happy. Command, he doesn't need to appear in front of people. Has the entire dark network betrayed him? This is impossible. So, no aspect of this story can withstand scrutiny, but it happened. If it really happened, there must be something hidden. But can fate be resisted by human beings? Those who should meet will meet again and again, just like him and Ji Sun. When he left Wujiazhu, he never thought that he would meet Ji Sun again. Just like Lu Ziwen and Ziyasai, they will still fall in love when they meet. In the gears of fate, who will lose their lives? Will he also die in the end? Zhang Junlin was a little timid. Gu Ci said, brother, the people in Life Point are different. Even if it is the same thing, the ending will be different. Zia was caught by Chen Liangdong and entered the National Security Bureau. This time, you were forced to return to China, and there is nothing I can do about it. No one can stop it. Zia persuaded Chen Liangdong to ask you over, and you and I can exchange information. It's all Chen Liangdong's tacit approval, but would my brother be forced to hand over to the Ji-Dao Dark Network without Chen Liangdong? What about? Our family is our fatal weakness. Without the Ji-Dao Dark Network, will the people you offended back then let you go? Zhang Junlin is already thinking, if it were not for Ziyasai and Ziyu, and Dr. North had never been released from prison, and there was only Xiaoying beside him, would he have been able to escape this catastrophe? Not necessarily. Although he won't lose his life, he might not be able to protect the Ji-Dao Dark Network. Brother, don't ask you about your future and the past anymore, and don't worry about it anymore. It's over. Zhang Junlin finally understood why Gu Ci's heart disease was so serious. Don't be afraid of the future, don't dwell on the past, don't be distracted, don't be sleepy. Yu Qing, Ziyasai, the past has passed. You should try to let it go. My brother won't ask again. Just pretend that those things never happened. No. Those things really never happened. Her life has taken on a completely new look. I know, Gu Ci chuckled and said, I'm learning to let go slowly. Brother, don't worry, I will get better. Zhang Junlin patted her head lovingly. The two continued fishing without talking about the past. Gu Ci didn't catch a single fish. Zhang Junlin caught 3 silver carp and 2 blackfish, both of which were quite big. Gu Ci was a little unhappy. Same bait, same hook, I'm not far away, so why did I fall on your hook? You are too impatient. You pull the buoy as soon as it sinks. At that time, the fish has not yet taken the bait and easily falls off. Zhang Junlin often accompanied his grandfather fishing, which can calm the mind and is a great knowledge. I'll discuss it with my brother later. The two of them had a rest for half a day. After returning to Jiang's house, the fish were sent to the kitchen. The black fish was made into fish fillets, and the silver carp was cooked into fish soup. Gu Ci went to talk to Grandma Jiang, and Zhang Junlin wiped his hands with a wet wipe. Call Zhang Jiang, go and find out what Gu Zhiwen has done recently. Master, why do you suddenly want to investigate Gu Zhiwen, in what specific areas? Every aspect must be investigated. Zhang Junlin threw away the wipes and looked indifferent, who she associates with, what she is doing, who she is in the entertainment industry, whether her books are clean, where her resources come from, especially interpersonal relationships, I want to know. Yes. Wait a minute, Zhang Junlin sneered, by the way, let's check what Gu Wenliang and Lu Man are doing. Understood. Zhang Junlin didn't want to argue with Gu Wenliang. The Gu family went bankrupt, which was the biggest punishment for them, who were pampered and pampered. Gu Ci must avenge her, so she didn't take action, so he didn't have to take over. Zhang Junlin never argued with fools, so as not to get angry, but when he thought of Gu Ci's 5 years in prison and the pain of disfigurement, he hated it. Some things should be taken care of, but we still have to take care of them. Zhang Jiang knew from the look on Zhang Junlin's face that the Gu family was going to be in trouble. After the reunion dinner, Gu Ci returned to Lanshan Villa. Qin Wan was going to pick her up, but Gu Ci told her to have fun and not come to pick her up because she could go back by herself. Zhang Junlin drank a little too much and didn't come out to see her off. The two elders of the Zhang family saw her out the door. After the two left, the car that had been parked far away started up, and the car lights illuminated Gu Ci so hard that she couldn't open her eyes. She looked over intently and saw that it was Lu Ziwen and Ji Suan. Lu Ziwen got out of the car and walked over slowly. Under the moonlight, his smile was particularly dazzling. I'll take you back. Don't bother, someone will take me back. Gu Ci drank some wine and originally planned to ask Zhang Jiang to find someone to drive her back. Lu Ziwen has taken the initiative to sit in the driver's seat. This car was picked by Gu Ci from Lu Ziwen's garage and has never been changed. He rolled down the window and said, Xiao Ci, get in the car. The voice is gentle, but cannot be rejected. Gu Ci took a deep breath. This was outside Jiang's house. She didn't want to alarm anyone, so she had to get in the car and Lu Ziwen drove away. Ji Xian watched them leave from the rearview mirror, looked up at Zhang Junlin's bedroom, and irritably took a cigarette and lit it. On such a cold day, he slept with the window open, so he wasn't afraid of catching a cold. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 373. Chapter 373 Happy Lantern Festival. Lu Ziwen and Gu Ci didn't speak during the whole journey. They drove for 20 minutes and turned onto the elevated highway. Gu Ci frowned and said, "This is not the direction to Lanshan Villa. Where are you taking me? Who once said that you would follow me to the end of the world, but now you are afraid? The oath has long been in vain, I almost forgot about it." "I haven't forgotten." Lu Ziwen drove to the mountain in the suburbs and drove all the way to the observation deck. Gu Ci remembered this place. She ran away from home once in middle school and came here to watch the stars. In the middle of the night, there was no one around. The birds and crows in the mountains were singing, and she was scared. She wanted to run, but she sprained her foot. She was very scared while hiding on the observation deck. She hugged a piece of wood to encourage herself, thinking that she would go down the mountain again when it gets daylight. Later in the night, there was thunder and lightning, and Gu Si was trembling with fear. It was Lu Ziwen who found her and carried her down the mountain. At that time, her relationship with Lu Ziwen was already very bad, and she didn't know why Lu Ziwen could find her. I was young at the time, and I had never thought about how Lu Ziwen came to the mountains to look for her when there was no public transportation at night, and he was still underage. He was so confused that he didn't ask her. In that kind of thunder and lightning, in the weather, as long as there is one person accompanying her, even if it is a bitter enemy. "Why did you come to this mountain that day?" Lu Ziwen asked. Gu Si looked up at the sky full of stars. This was different from the lightning and thunder a few years ago. The starry sky tonight was particularly beautiful. The air in the mountains was good, and you could see the stars in the sky. In the center of the city, you could not see such beauty. View. Gu Si thought vaguely that she came to the mountains to watch the stars because she saw the starry sky posted by Lu Ziwen on WeChat Moments. She checked where to see the most beautiful starry sky in City A, so she took a bus to the suburbs and hiked up the mountain alone. Unexpectedly, I forgot to check the weather forecast and sprained my foot again. I forgot. Gu Si chuckled and said, "Young and fearless, I always want to do something extraordinary to arouse the concern of my family." But she didn't know that no one at home cared about her. Gu Si asked, "Lu Ziwen, you shouldn't be reminiscing with me. What do you want from me? If Zhang Junlin wants you to be the leader of the extreme way, just refuse," Lu Ziwen said. "This is a matter of the Jidao Dark Network and has nothing to do with you." Gu Si looked directly into Lu Ziwen's eyes. "What's the reason?" Lu Ziwen just looked at her steadily, as if stars were falling in his eyes, but Gu Si did not avoid it. If she wanted to quit Lu Ziwen, she had to face him honestly. "Since my heart is already beating, there is no need for much resistance. Like someone is not something to be ashamed of. The fact that Zhang Junlin is the Dark Master of the Jida has not been widely exposed, but many people already know it. If you become the master of the Jida, you will become a target. Xiaosai, you have been given a new life. Go to school well. After studying medicine, you will have a bright future as a good doctor, so don't get involved in these things." Gu Si laughed at herself. "I am a broken body and my heart is ill. What good future do I have?" These words were deliberately meant to poke Lu Ziwen's heart. As soon as she said it, she regretted it and couldn't bear it. She always wanted to hurt Lu Ziwen. No matter how painful her heart was, she wanted to hurt Lu Ziwen. But if Lu Ziwen's story was true, his pain was deeper than hers. More, what is she doing? This is the person she wants to love and cherish. Why would she want to hurt him? "Xiao Si, I won't harm you. Brother won't harm me either," Gu Si said decisively. "Maybe you think that my brother pushed me up as a target and can contain you. But in fact, my brother is in a difficult situation. It's not good, the Jidao Dark Network is too complicated, and he needs someone to help him. If something happens to him, I am the Jidao Dark Master, and he can only entrust it to me." Lu Ziwen frowned. "He can give it to North or Qinhuan, but why should he give it to you? Zhang Junlin wants you to contain me. This is his truest idea." "I know," Gu Si was not stupid, and Zhang Junlin told the truth. "You don't need to say it anymore, my brother has already told me about this. Have you made up your mind?" Gu Si nodded. "My mind has been decided." Lu Ziwen closed his eyes and his voice was slightly hoarse. "Okay, I understand." The matter was settled, and the two of them had nothing to say. Gu Si looked at the stars in the sky. "When I was a child, I liked to climb up to the top floor to watch the stars. Once I was pushed down by Gu Chuiyun and fell. I was a little afraid of heights. Later, in prison, everything was cured. Lu Ziwen, I am still afraid of heights. I still like to watch the stars, and I'm very happy to watch them together during the Lantern Festival." Gu Si took a deep breath and suppressed the unwillingness in her heart. Her unwillingness would turn her into a devil. I don't care why you married me back then, whether it's pity or pity, I owe you a word. I like you very much. I married you because I like you. Goosey I looked at the moonlight. Lu Ziwen, I saw you when I got out of prison. Standing in the sun, I felt ashamed of myself and felt like a moth flying into the flame. I have low self-esteem and cowardice. I dare not even say a word that I like you, for fear of hearing you say that I am sympathetic. You are the only one who will marry you. I don't even have the courage to bear a failed relationship. Did you pay any price to bring me here from hell? No, Lu Ziwen objected, you and Zia came back because of chance, not me. Really, Goosey I didn't believe him, I hate it when people lie to me. Lu Ziwen did not dare to look into her eyes. Goosey's love had always been very strong. Like a fire, it would burn her and the people she loved. When she loved someone, she wanted to dig out her heart to hold him. I said in front of you, I really love you, please believe me. She doesn't understand that love doesn't like proof. People who love you will always put you in their eyes. People who don't love you can't prove anything even if you dig their hearts out. Will Ziyu leave? Goosey I asked anxiously. This was something she had never dared to think about or ask. She could only ask Lu Ziwen, will he go back? Do you want him to go? Lu Ziwen asked gently. Goosey I shook his head, what did he do when he went back? In that cold world, there was no you or me, so no one had a happy ending. I couldn't bear it when he went back and was all alone. I just wanted him to stay here well. I know, Lu Ziwen said restrainedly and gently, I will fulfill all your wishes. No matter how difficult it is, no matter what you have to pay, Goosey's wish will be fulfilled at any cost. Goosey I felt at ease and relaxed. She looked at the thousands of lights in the city with a smile. Looking at the stars from a high place and looking at the thousands of lights are very beautiful. Lu Ziwen, Happy Lantern Festival. Lu Ziwen followed her gaze and smiled, Xiao Ci, Happy Lantern Festival. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 374. Chapter 374. Let's watch the stars together. Under the starry sky, Lu Ziwen and Goosey I sat on a rock and looked at the stars. A meteor passed by, and then 3 meteors streaked across the night sky. Goosey's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but make a wish. Lu Ziwen turned his head to look at the girl under the moonlight, and suddenly remembered their first life, when Goosey I and he sat on the roof and looked at the stars, and also saw shooting stars, and Goosey I made a wish. What wish did you make? Lu Ziwen asked. Under the moonlight, the girl's face was very gentle, which was what he liked. Goosey I smiled slyly, I won't tell you. If you tell me, maybe I can fulfill your wish. Goosey I propped her head and thought for a long time. The evening wind blew her hairband, and Lu Ziwen could smell the fragrance of tuberose on her body. There were large pieces of tuberose planted in the temple, which was Goosey's favorite place. Goosey I said, I hope Lu Ziwen can be free and unfettered. Perhaps it was from then on that he fell in love with the girl. He was sent to the temple as a child and learned etiquette, music, and responsibilities all day long. From a naughty and lively child, he became a rigid and restrained priest. He knelt in the temple every day, listened to the wishes of others, and conveyed them to the priest. Some people seek marriage, some seek wealth, some seek family harmony, and some seek official career. He has known since he was a child that people's hearts are selfish and want what they want for themselves. The selfless wish that he hears most often is what parents want for their children. One day, he heard his mother's prayer, and she asked for him. His mother prayed that he would go well in the temple, be healthy, and never make mistakes. He was very happy to be expelled from the temple. He was very happy when he thought that someone at home cared about him. One day the eldest brother in the family got married, so he asked for a favor and went home to visit. The priest smiled and agreed. Lu Ziwen prepared gifts with joy and returned home happily. He thought he would be welcomed by his parents, brothers, and sisters, and they would talk about their thoughts and pain of separation. Unexpectedly, his parents and brothers turned him away. They misunderstood that they had made a mistake and were expelled from the temple. Fearing that they would bring trouble to them, they disowned him and forced him to go back to plead for mercy, hoping that he would stay in the temple for life. That year, Lu Ziwen was 12 years old. He was confused, sad, and heartbroken. He clearly heard his mother praying for his health and safety, but why did he not want to acknowledge her? He was isolated from the house with a cart full of gifts. The mother said that she wished him peace and health, hoping that he would stay in the temple forever. Because of Lu Ziwen, the family's fortunes have improved. They were originally poor farmers, but now everyone is flattering them, and the government will provide facilities. The eldest brother has found a good job, his parents have been taken care of, and his sisters and younger brothers have a good future. They all have a bright future, only he is trapped in darkness. He was lonely all year round in the temple, with no one to accompany him, no one to take care of him when he was sick, and no one to bring him food when he was hungry. He could only talk to flowers and plants, and he was not allowed to have emotions or desires. He had to be a ruthless wooden man without desires. That was the first time Lu Ziwen went home, and it was also the last time. From then on, he never thought about his family or had any delusions. When he heard his mother praying for his safety and success again, he was indifferent. Lu Ziwen hated the temple, which was the inner demon of his life. He tried every means to escape, but was bruised and bruised. He wanted to see the world outside of paradise, and did not want to be trapped in this small place. No one asked him about his wishes, and his life was decided. He hated this prison-like life. Until Gu Si fell like a star in his garden. He had heard thousands of wishes. Everyone had selfish motives and desires, but this was the first time he heard someone selflessly just wanted him to be free. He had never even told Gu Si that he hated this place. To struggle to escape. But Gu Si understands him. Lu Ziwen thought of the past and smiled softly. The girl's face in the memory was vivid and overlapped with the Gu Si in front of him. Lu Ziwen asked, "Xiao Si, what wish did you make?" "I don't want to tell you." "Tell me, maybe I can help you fulfill your wish." Gu Si thought for a moment and smiled softly, "If your story is true, then I hope you can be free. Don't be trapped in the past, trapped in the last life like me, unable to escape. Only those who have experienced it can empathize with that kind of pain, if his story is true." Lu Ziwen has also been trapped in the past for hundreds of years and cannot escape. Lu Ziwen was slightly startled. The emotions he had deliberately suppressed were burning and exploding like a volcano. Even if he suppressed an iceberg, he could not submerge the heat. Lu Ziwen gritted his teeth and suddenly looked away, unable to look directly. Looking at Gu Si's passionate eyes. Hundreds of years have passed, and the starry sky is still the same. She is still her. Gu Si looked at his forbearing and restrained profile, and said nothing, just looking up at the stars. It was really sad, she was all bruised, but if Meteor could only fulfill one wish, she actually made it to Lu Ziwen. She just wanted to promise it to Lu Ziwen. Lu Ziwen suppressed the hot emotions in his heart and said hoarsely, "It's late at night, let's go home." "Okay," Gu Si said nothing more. Jiang's house, Zhang Junlin just came out of the bathroom and saw someone sitting in the bedroom. Ji Sun crossed his legs and leaned arrogantly on the sofa in his bedroom. His coat was hung casually beside him, as casually as a master. Zhang Junlin's room was cold and cool, with gray and white colors. It was simple but not simple. Burn with soothing sandalwood incense. Zhang Junlin was slightly startled. An hour ago, Zhang Qiang told him that Ji Huan was outside. In fact, the night he came back, Ji Huan stayed outside all night. He also knew that, so he told Zhang Qiang to leave him alone. He didn't expect that Ji Sun would be so bold as to climb through the window. Neither of them spoke. Ji Huan seemed to be waiting for Zhang Junlin to expel him. This was his home, his parents, grandparents were all downstairs, and the slightest movement would alert them. He didn't want to climb through the window either. When Zhang Junlin came back, he stayed overnight and wanted to see him, but he knew that once they met, they would have to talk about goodbye. He was unwilling and resisted, dragging on day after day like an ostrich. Today is the Lantern Festival. The eagerness to see him has finally overcome the sadness in my heart. Zhang Junlin has not contacted him during this period. Is he ready to break up? Zhang Junlin looked at this familiar and overly beautiful face and walked over suddenly. When Ji Sun thought he wanted to beat him, Zhang Junlin leaned over. Ji Huan's heart was beating like a drum, and his body and mind were heating up. Zhang Junlin put a hand into his thick hair. They were like two wild beasts, constantly biting each other, like a deadly attack, trying to swallow each other's bones and blood into their stomachs. Fireworks exploded outside the window, and they couldn't cover up the beating of drums inside the house. Heartbeat. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 375. Chapter 375 Don't want to break up. Zhang Junlin and Ji Huan were sitting on the carpet disheveled, breathing heavily. Several buttons of Ji Huan's shirt were torn, and there were bite marks on his neck and collarbone. Ji Sun's eyes, which were originally a pool of stagnant water, seemed to come alive, filled with fireworks outside the house, which were extremely brilliant. He was ecstatic and wanted to run around and tell each other. Over the years, he seems to have written love letters one after another, but they have always been in vain. He has been disappointed and painful. He has clearly reached a dead end, but there has been another love letter, and he has received a love letter from the other party unexpectedly. All love and expectations are never wishful thinking. Brother. Ji Xian suddenly buried his head in his lap, resting his head on his thigh like a child. His mood was agitated and sad. He knew that he had to make a decision, but he had to be cruel when he was happiest. When you were arrested, I thought I would never see you again. Zhang Junlin stroked his hair, and those burning emotions were completely suppressed. This was the second time he saw Ji Sun after the separation, and he couldn't help but think of the sleepless nights in prison. For a time he thought Ji Sun was dead. The gunshot rang in his ears repeatedly, shattering his countless fantasies. He would be awakened even in his shallow sleep. He thought of the scene of him being shot in the head several times. He thought masochistically, what if he died? Even if he has taken revenge, what can he do? Revenge is temporary pleasure, but it cannot be relieved, and pain cannot be relieved for a lifetime. People cannot be resurrected after death. Even if they kill all their enemies, Ji Sun will not be resurrected. He repeatedly thought about the memories of being with Ji Xian, and he also had an idea in his mind: forget it, don't insist on it anymore, maybe one day we won't see each other again. If Ji Sun is still alive, so be it. Pei Chuiying came to the prison and saved his life. He knew that Ji Sun was still alive and well. He felt at ease and never thought about doing what Ji Sun wanted. People are very strange. They always cherish something after losing it, but they ignore it when they see it. He is not exempt from vulgarity. Is your injury healed? Ji Sun stood up and looked directly into his eyes. It's been healed a long time ago. Brother, where is your injury? He said that he wanted to check the injury on Zhang Junlin's back. Zhang Junlin held his hand and said, the wound has healed long ago. The warden is mine and he is not guilty and is well taken care of. The two people's eyes seemed to be glued together, and they kissed each other involuntarily. Zhang Junlin's shirt was quickly torn by him. Zhang Junlin used his lifelong self-control to push Ji Sun away. Ji Sun, I have something to tell you. Ji Sun's heart was full of passion when a basin of cold water was poured on it, and all the fire was extinguished. He stood up almost in embarrassment, picked up his coat and put it on. It's late at night, I should go. He did not have the courage to face what Zhang Junlin said next. He knew what Zhang Junlin would say, and he also knew that no matter how much he resisted or how desperate he was, whatever was supposed to happen would happen. Once he was imprisoned once, there would never be a second time. Zhang Junlin held his hand. Ji Sun's hand was shaking violently, as if he was afraid of something. His palm was wet and had been sweating for a long time. Ji Sun, Today is the Lantern Festival, do you have to say it? Ji Xian turned around, his eyes were red. He had never been shameless in front of Zhang Junlin, and would cry whenever he asked. Zhang Junlin looked at his red eyes, and all his words were choked in his throat. He is decisive in killing, but he also has a soft spot deep in his heart. He was covered in armor all over his body and was invulnerable, except for this part, which was so soft that it hurt when touched. Zhang Junlin's silence indulged Ji Sun's greed. Brother, do you hate me? No, hate. Ji Sun's greed spreads in his blood. Then do you love me? Knowing that he shouldn't ask and couldn't ask, he was still greedy. Zhang Junlin's silence was like a knife thrust into his chest. He broke away from Zhang Junlin's hand and pushed open the window. The cold wind blew into the bedroom, and Ji Xian stood up straight, like a green pine. You asked Gu Si to bring me a message. If I didn't act rashly, you would still be alive, as I wished. Are you lying to me? No. Zhang Junlin stood up and hugged Ji Sun from behind. Ignoring the looks of the guards downstairs, Zhang Junlin said, Ji Sun, I really want to do what you want. He wanted to, but he couldn't. Ji Sun cannot leave Black Eagle. He is the heir trained by Lu Ziwen. He cannot leave the dark network of Ji Dao. This is fate, so he has never asked Ji Sun. You leave Black Hawk, okay. Don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. This kind of temptation is most unfair and unnecessary. Why do you demand so much from Ji Sun when he can't do it? Ji Sun wants a promise. Every word I said to you on the plane to Paris was sincere. Ji Sun froze. He suddenly turned around and pushed Zhang Junlin against the wall. He was crying, looking fierce but pitiful. Then tell me you won't leave me. Zhang Junlin looked at the crazy face in front of him with distress. His eyes were red, and the veins on Zhang Junlin's forehead were pulsing, bursting out of forbearance. Xiao Chang, you and I both know that this is impossible. Ji Huan hit his sternum hard with his head. Zhang Junlin felt pain, but didn't say anything. He just rubbed his head against his heart and couldn't bear to say any heartless words. I absolutely don't want to. Suddenly, Ji Sun's words were interrupted by a phone ringing. It was Ji Sun's call. On the way back to the city, Gu Si and Lu Ziwen were silent again. Gu Si played music. This is a mountain with 9 twists and turns. There are people watching the stars at night, and there is a camping site halfway up the mountain. Gu Si glanced at the car behind her from time to time, her heart beating faster. Lu Ziwen, that car behind is a bit strange. I know, Lu Ziwen said, don't be afraid. The car suddenly bumped, and Lu Ziwen realized that something was wrong. The tire should have been punctured. The mountain road was not smooth. Lu Ziwen called wrongly and asked them to follow his position. What Gu Si fears most is car accidents. Lu Ziwen was in 2 car accidents, one died, and the other was hanging by a thread. Both became her inner demons. Lu Ziwen held Gu Si's hand. Her hands were already cold. Lu Ziwen said, don't be afraid, I'm here. I'm scared only because you are here. Gu Si looked at him with fear in her eyes. She quickly calmed down. Is there a gun in the car? Lu Ziwen shook his head. He deliberately avoided everyone and took Gu Xi to watch the stars. Li Zhang also specially made a false route. Even if someone wanted to follow him, just follow Li Zhang. Lu Ziwen never expected that it would be like this one out. The car following behind suddenly accelerated and crashed into it. The mountain road here has 18 bends. There is only a simple guardrail, and there is a cliff next to it. A slight collision will cause it to fall off the cliff. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 376. Chapter 376 Life and Death Together. Lu Ziwen accelerated, and the car hit the air, but it still hit him desperately. Lu Ziwen accelerated again. This was a curve after all, and it was a mountain road. Not everyone has Lu Ziwen's driving skills. He quickly left them behind and turned a corner. Gu Xi looked back and said, "It's 3 cars, not 1. This mountain road is a 2-lane road and only 2 cars are allowed to pass." After Lu Ziwen accelerated, he wanted to go down the mountain quickly. Unexpectedly, a car drove up from the bottom of the mountain and turned on its high beam, which illuminated Gu Xi almost unable to open his eyes. It's okay to turn on high beam on this kind of mountain road. There were no car lights on the road, but the lights were still so strong when meeting cars. Lu Ziwen knew it was not good. He drove the car as far in as possible, as close to the side of the mountain. Suddenly, I felt a jolt, as if I had hit something, and the car suddenly lost control. Lu Ziwen said in a deep voice, "Xiao Ci, unbuckle your seat belt." At the moment the car hit the guardrail, Gu Xi also hurriedly unbuckled his seat belt, and the 2 of them and the car were knocked off a cliff more than 50 meters high. Lu Ziwen hugged Gu Xi and teleported to a rock on the cliff. He suddenly spurted out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, the car fell to the bottom of the valley and exploded, with flames shooting into the sky. On the cliff, several men in black looked indifferently. If he can't be killed on the field, he is lucky. This 50-meter high cliff has exploded again. I don't believe he can still be alive. Let's go down the mountain. Several people left quickly. At the foot of the cliff, Lu Ziwen knelt softly on the rocks, with blood staining the skirt of his clothes. Gu Xi hugged his waist and supported him against the rocks. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. "Lu Ziwen, what's wrong with you?" Lu Ziwen was furious. "Are you hurt?" Gu Xi was frightened, but was well protected without any injuries. "What happened to you?" "Leave first," Lu Ziwen said in a deep voice. "It is not suitable to stay in this place for a long time. They will definitely come to look for the body." Gu Xi also knew the seriousness, but Lu Ziwen vomited another mouthful of blood. Gu Xi made a quick decision and carried Lu Ziwen on his back and walked into the woods. "Xiao Ci, put me down." Lu Ziwen was a little weak. He was 1.9 meters tall and had an athlete's physique. It would be difficult for Gu Xi to carry him on his back. It's not like he couldn't walk. "Shut up," Gu Xi shouted harshly. It was too dark, and the valley was even darker. She didn't know where Lu Ziwen was injured, but he vomited blood twice in succession. She was worried and just wanted to get out quickly. "This valley. I can leave." "Shut up." Gu Xi looked fierce. Lu Ziwen heard Gu Xi's rough breathing. He had lived for hundreds of years and was being carried by a woman for the first time, and she was his sweetheart. Lu Ziwen felt extremely complicated. "Is it heavy? Do you think you are light?" "Lu Ziwen." Gu Xi stepped on a stone and lost her balance, almost throwing Lu Ziwen. Lu Ziwen only felt a sharp pain, and his breathing rate changed. Gu Si also noticed it sensitively. Lu Ziwen, Lu Ziwen. Lu Ziwen was in a daze, and when he heard Gu Si calling his name in his ears, he felt soft and said softly, "Don't be afraid, I'm fine." Liar, he must not have known where he was injured. Gu Si was so anxious that he could not help blaming him for not taking Li Jiang with him when he went out, nor did he take a guard with him. This incident was a disaster that both the heavens and the earth did not respond to. There seemed to be people waiting to check the explosion in this valley. Gu Si saw the light and they were about to encounter the enemy. Gu Si did not hesitate and jumped into the nearby pool with Lu Ziwen on his back. There is a waterfall above the pool. It is winter again, it is bitingly cold, and the pool is very deep. Lu Ziwen and Gu Si both held their breath and hid at the bottom of the pool. "Did you hear anything?" 7 or 8 men walked through the pool. "Maybe it's a rockfall," another person said in a deep voice. "Don't talk nonsense, hurry up and check. Jiang will be there in a minute." A few beams of light shone on the water pool. Lu Ziwen and Gu Si hid in the water plants again. The man stood by the water pool and found nothing, so he followed the large group and left. Lu Ziwen and Gu Si got out of the water. Gu Si's heart was beating like thunder and it was bone-chilling. Gu Si choked a few mouthfuls of water, then came over and went to see Lu Ziwen. Lu Ziwen was in a bad state. There was a little reflection of water here. Gu Si saw him. With a cold white face, she hurriedly jumped out of the pool and pulled Lu Ziwen up. Lu Ziwen's steps faltered. Gu Si was afraid that he would faint, so she didn't care that she was covered in water, so she carried him again. The boots were filled with cold water, which was cold and icy. Gu Si felt that her feet were a little itchy from the ice, but she didn't care anymore. "Lu Ziwen, are you okay?" Lu Ziwen lay on her shoulder and did not respond. "Lu Ziwen," Gu Si shouted, and he kissed Gu Si's neck gently. "I'm here." This is more of an unconscious response. Gu Si felt a great pain in her heart, and her cold and numb body seemed to be heated up by a beam of fire. She would definitely take Lu Ziwen out. Back then, there was thunder and lightning on the mountain, and Lu Ziwen carried her down the mountain, comforting him all the way. Now the situation has been reversed, and things have really changed. Gu Si didn't expect that this group of people would leave someone on the road to guard them. She had no choice but to carry Lu Ziwen on her back and hide in a cave. Their mobile phones were all dropped along with the car, and they were unarmed. If they faced an enemy with full equipment, they would have no chance of winning. Gu Si's heartbeat accelerated, and she just hoped that Li Jiang would come soon. After Li Jiang got the news and notified Ji Sun, he immediately sent a drone to come over first. They drove a little slower while Rong Li monitored and watched the drone. The drone reached the valley first and saw the fire. "There must be no cameras in this place," Rong Li said. The drone came closer. The drone flew into the valley and approached the car. The remaining fire was still burning. Fortunately, the woods did not burn up. The monitor said, "This is the third master's car." Rong Li's face was solemn. "Send another team of drones over, I want to see the entire valley." "Yes." Rong Li turned around and knew that Li Jiang had brought 2 teams of people, and Ji Xian had also gone. He took a few steps back and forth, very excited. The third master must have a trick in his head. He took Gu Si to the mountain alone. Just go and return. Is he crazy if he doesn't take Li Jiang? He paused and asked, "There is a camp on the mountain, but there is no surveillance at all. What should I do if there is an accident? How should I deal with traffic accidents? There is not a single camera. Does that make sense?" "Master Rong, there are 3 cameras, but unfortunately they are all broken," the monitor said. "There is a camp on the mountain. There will be more people on weekends. There are very few people there on weekdays, and it is not a scenic spot, so the cameras along the way are broken. No one reported the damage and no one repaired it. Idiot, wrongly yelled, Sanlin, you are responsible for monitoring along the way and see if you can find any information on the vehicles entering and leaving the valley tonight. Checking it now. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 377. Chapter 377 We will find them. Halfway up the mountain, Ji Huan and Zhang Junlin parked their cars. Zhang Qiang left 3 people to protect them. He led others and Black Eagle's people down to the cliff. When the accident happened, someone in the camp recorded a video. Ji Huan asked a woman after asking for the video. He and Zhang Junlin both saw the scene of the tragic car accident. The cliff was so high that if it fell like this, it would definitely lead to death. Zhang Junlin called Gu Ci, but no one answered the busy line. There was signal in the valley. Drones were flying over the valley, and people from the fire brigade came to put out the fire. The valley was full of people. While waiting for the news, Zhang Junlin couldn't help but cursed, "What's wrong with Lu Ziwen? He brought Xiaosai to the mountain in the middle of the night without anyone around him. He is so confident. If something happens to Xiaosai, I'll forgive you, not him." His dissatisfaction level with Lu Ziwen is almost full. Ji Sun didn't dare to refute. It was indeed a big mistake for Third Master not to take Li Zhang with him. At least a few guards were required. He still expressed his respect and said, "Maybe Third Master thinks that the Lantern Festival is a holiday. Do you still have to choose a day to kill him? What a good anniversary to die on the Lantern Festival." Ji Sun. Zhang Junlin was angry, but Ji Huan didn't get into trouble. Li Zhang arrived one step ahead of them and was already looking for him at the bottom of the valley. Ji Huan took a telescope and took a look at the valley where dragons and snakes were mixed. "The fire brigade, traffic police, and ambulances are here. There are too many people." Ji Sun was a little uneasy. If someone got mixed up in the fire brigade and the ambulance brigade, it would be hard to prevent. "Brother, can you let the firemen and traffic police go back, as well as the medical team?" Zhang Junlin called Gu Ziyu. Gu Ziyu was celebrating the Lantern Festival at Chen Liangdong's house. When he heard that Lu Ziwen and Gu Ci had a car accident and fell into the valley, his mind went blank and he didn't come back to his senses for 5 seconds. Lu Ziwen died protecting him and Gu Ci. This was a story he had heard since he was a child. All tragedies were caused by that car accident. Not only Gu Ci had PTSD after hearing about the car accident, but Gu Ziyu also had it. "Ziyu, are you listening?" "Yes," Gu Ziyu's voice trembled slightly, "I understand." He hung up the phone and was a little flustered. Chen Liangdong asked, "Baby, what's wrong?" Gu Ziyu hurriedly told the story, and Chen Liangdong called Chen Fei and asked Chen Fei to prepare the car while he took Ziyu to go there in person. The campers were watching the fun on the mountainside. They didn't expect so many people to come after a car accident. One woman said, "The car fell off the cliff and exploded. Can people still be alive? I'm sure I won't survive. It took 20 minutes for the fire to burn before I came here. It must have been burned to ashes. No matter how lucky you are, you still can't survive, otherwise it would be too contrary to the laws of nature." Ji Huan saw that Zhang Junlin's face was getting more and more ugly. He frowned slightly and looked coldly at the group of people watching the fun. Ji Huan was as soft as a little sheep in front of Zhang Junlin. He was young but had a strong sense of coercion. The woman who spoke at the beginning caught his gaze and hid behind her boyfriend, very scared. "The fire has been put out." Li Zhang and Zhang Qiang both sent back the news that basically everything was burned and there were no bones. Zhang Junlin and Ji Sun both breathed a sigh of relief. "Are you sure?" "Sure, it's not a crematorium, how could it be burned to ashes? Since there are no bones, there is a problem." "Where are they?" Chang Junlin said, "We have searched the entire valley, and we must find someone." "Yes. Gu Xi and Lu Ziwen are still in the valley. Lu Ziwen is in a semi-conscious state, but he insists on not losing his mind. There are dragons and snakes in the valley. They are all enemies at the beginning. They are looking for people everywhere, and there are drones in the sky. Lu Ziwen and Gu Xi both felt that the cave was not safe. As soon as Gu Xi left the cave with Lu Ziwen on his back, someone went to check the cave and found blood stains. Head, the blood is still fresh, they just left. Using this as the center, we have to dig 3 feet into the ground to find it. Yes. Boss, this is a bit weird. Why are they still alive after falling from such a high place? Moreover, the place where the car crashed is far away from here, and it was only 10 minutes after the accident. Unless they had wings, they couldn't have appeared here. They divided into several groups and surrounded the valley. Some people went to check the crash site. They were outflanking Lu Ziwen and Gu Xi in order to prevent Lu Ziwen and Gu Xi from being killed. Yes, why are they here? Gu Xi carried Lu Ziwen on her back and was walking very slowly. The footsteps were approaching from behind. It was too dark at night to see the way ahead. Gu Xi slipped and rolled down. Lu Ziwen only had time to hold her and the two of them went down together. He rolled down, then lost consciousness. It's daybreak. The firemen and traffic police withdrew. People from Black Eagle and GDO searched for people in the valley. They cooperated with drones, but could not find any traces. Gu Xi had installed positioning on Gu Xi's mobile phone, but the mobile phone was in the car. It was burned down, and naturally there was no news. Li Jiang's mobile phone ran out of battery and quickly recharged it. He didn't dare to miss any calls. He usually didn't answer calls from strangers. This morning, he received 3 calls from people selling houses. The search continued until noon, but there was no trace. Gu Xi's face turned pale. Zhang Junlin and Ji Sun both prepared for the worst. Have they been taken away? They searched the entire valley, both the back and the front. Li Jiang led people to search even the valley on the back. After all, he knew that Lu Ziwen could teleport, and it was not difficult to move from north to south, but there was still no trace. Chang Junlin also thought about the possibility of them being taken away. After the accident, the enemy was in the valley. Li Jiang was the fastest group to get here, and it took 30 minutes. There are too many variables in these 30 minutes. Ji Huan thought for a while and told Li Jiang, arrange a man and a woman to be the wounded, and say that we have found the third master and Gu Xi. They are both slightly injured and they will go back to the world. But we didn't find anyone, Li Jiang said. Ji Xian said in a deep voice, it has been 14 hours since the accident happened last night to noon today. If third master and Gu Xi were taken away, neither I nor Mr. Zhang should have received a call. We have not answered the call yet. When we get the call, there are only 2 possibilities. The third master and Gu Xi are out of trouble and it is inconvenient to contact us. The second is that they were taken away by them. If it is the second way, we can just wait for the call. But if it is the first way, what? The enemy may also be waiting for our search and rescue information. If we don't find anyone and they claim to have found someone, we will be passive and follow my instructions. Yes, Li Jiang went down to make arrangements. After Chen Rishi's accident, Lu Ziwen basically controlled the top management of Black Hawk. Although he did not speak out, few people came to stir up trouble. If something happened to him, Black Hawk would listen to Ji Sun. This is the latest order from Black Hawk after the year. Determine the status of Ji Sun's successor. Zhang Junlin listened to Ji Sun's order without saying anything, and turned back to look at Gu Xiu. Gu Xiu was sitting on the rock. He had been very quiet and never said a word. Zhang Junlin felt sorry for Gu Xiu and walked over slowly. Xiu, we will find them. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 378. Chapter 378 Lu Ziwen, you can't die. Gu Zia was very scared. He knew that Lu Ziwen could teleport, but he was still afraid. His father had an indissoluble bond with the car accident. He died in the car accident and was seriously injured in the car accident. His life was hanging by a thread. Now, he fell into the valley again. He is the best racing driver in the world, but he often dies or is injured in car accidents. A good rider falls from his horse, and a good swimmer dies in the water. How ironic. Gu Zia looked up at Zhang Junlin, his eyes very calm. I know they will be fine. This is a belief. Daddy and mommy will be fine, they will come back to him. You stayed up all night here, go back and rest first, Zhang Junlin said. Gu Zia wanted to wait here for news. Zhang Junlin said, Ji-sun and I will handle it well. If there is news, we will notify you as soon as possible. Don't you, rest. Uncle Chen came with you and stayed up all night. He couldn't stand it and obeyed. Gu Zia looked at Chen Liangdong. He had indeed stayed up all night after accompanying Gu Zia here. It was winter again, the mountains were cold, and there was a meeting in the afternoon. Okay, uncle, if you have any news, tell me as soon as possible. I know. Chen Fei sent Chen Liangdong and Gu Zia back. Chen Liangdong had just been on the phone on the mountain. Lu Ziwen's accident had a serious impact, and all parties were asking for news. And I don't know who did it. Mr. Zhang negotiated with Lu Ziwen the day before, but failed to reach an agreement. Then something happened to him, and Mr. Zhang was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. He told Chen Liangdong, this matter really has nothing to do with me at all. I know that you have always paid attention to your reputation, and you will not get involved in these things. They will not think that it was you who did it. Don't worry, Chen Liangdong said, there is no conclusion on this matter. Lu Ziwen has many enemies, and he doesn't know why. If anyone gets his whereabouts, don't be impatient. We'll discuss it when there's news. After Chen Liangdong hung up the phone, Gu Zia asked, can you trust him? He doesn't really trust these old foxes, they are very cunning. He trusts Chen Liangdong because Chen Liangdong has an old relationship with him and has been working hard for him sincerely. Yes, it's too stupid to kill people just after the negotiation has broken down. Mr. Zhang is not a stupid person. Chen Liangdong rubbed his hair, I haven't slept all night. Chen Fei will take you home to rest. I have a meeting in the afternoon, let's go directly to the office. Chen Fei couldn't help but say, Ziyu, you work so hard and stay up all night. Your body can't hold on. You are still growing. You are not required to be present at the afternoon meeting. Chen Liangdong nodded, Chen Fei is right, you go home and rest. This is an order. The search and rescue team searched the valley until 3 o'clock in the afternoon and confirmed that they were not in the mountains. The wounded man and woman arranged by Ji-sun were carried into the car. Black Eagle and Jideo evacuated everyone. Lu Ziwen and Gu Xi found the people. Failure to evacuate would arouse suspicion. Both Ji-sun and Zhang Junlin felt that there were still people watching them on the mountain. The camp was also a mixed bag of people. In order to win the trust of others, they had to evacuate them all. They were also prepared for the worst. Wrongly and his informant worked for more than 10 hours and found out several useful clues. They were all fake cars, but they were all lost. The main reason was that the cameras in some places in Suburbana were broken and could not be retrieved at all. The pictures and the cameras at the traffic lights were broken. Wrongly had never seen such an outrageous thing. There are 30 traffic lights in the suburbs and 11 cameras have problems. What are they pretending to be? Are they just decorations? Wrongly was irritable. It's no wonder that he got lost. Ji Huan rubbed his eyebrows with a headache. He heard Zhang Junlin scold Lu Ziwen and wrongly scolded the traffic control department. He had a headache and no one called. Theoretically, if someone is kidnapped, news should be sent. Third master should be fine, Li Jiang said. After all, he could teleport, so he couldn't be kidnapped. But with Miss Gu Ci, he couldn't be sure. Since it's okay, the day and night have almost passed without a single call. We can't fly out of city. Ji Sun was also a little irritated. They had preset the worst case scenario, but they still hoped that Lu Ziwen and Gu Ci not taken away. Wrongly asked, did the old Chen family do it? I don't know, I've sent someone to check. After coming out of the Zhang family yesterday, Lu Ziwen and Ji Xian went to meet the head of the old Chen family. The conversation was not very pleasant. But if the conversation was not very pleasant, their conversation with Mr. Zhang was not very pleasant either. You can't be tempted to kill because of this, right? That's too stupid. Li Jiang said, maybe he is the third master's enemy. After his identity was exposed, he has been recovering from his injuries and has never been alone, so everything is calm. If it's an enemy, the scope will be much wider, Wrongly said, who knows which family didn't kill the Yakuza completely. Ji Sun. Is there any news about Zhang Junlin? Wrongly asked. They were not as good as Zhang Junlin in terms of connections and familiarity in City A. Ji Sun shook his head. Zhang Junlin didn't find much useful information. They were all waiting for the call now. This kind of waiting is the most anxious. In the valley, Gu Ci slowly woke up with a splitting headache. She hit a stone on the back of her head and lost consciousness. She was awakened by the sound of birds. Gu Ci felt as if a stone was pressing on her chest, which was very stuffy. When she recovered, she found that Lu Ziwen lay on her chest. Gu Ci didn't know if there were any enemies in the mountain, so she lowered her voice, Lu Ziwen. Lu Ziwen didn't respond. Gu Ci frowned and pushed him, third brother, wake up. But Lu Ziwen still didn't respond at all. Gu Ci was a little anxious and hurriedly pushed him away. Lu Ziwen fell aside. Gu Ci saw a large blood stain on her chest, but there was no obvious trauma on her body, only the scratched wound when she fell. There will definitely not be so much bloodshed. It could only be the injury on Lu Ziwen's body. Gu Ci was worried and hurriedly checked Lu Ziwen and found that a piece of glass was stuck in his back. Because he rolled and fell into the valley, the glass was so deep into his skin that he could not pull it out. Gu Ci's face changed drastically. In addition to the piece of glass, his waist and abdomen were also scratched by sharp stones, and the blood was flowing. Gu Ci checked his nose and found that his breathing was very weak. Gu Ci broke into a cold sweat and helped Lu Ziwen lean against the stone wall. She tore off her down jacket, took out all the goose down and blocked his wound, and tied it tightly with cotton to prevent him from continuing to bleed. Lu Ziwen's body suffered from excessive blood loss. Very cold, Gu Ci held him in her arms, and he pressed her shoulder softly. Lu Ziwen, you can't die, another car accident, damn, another car accident. Gu Ci looked up at the cave. The cave they fell into was high and deep. The possibility of climbing up with Lu Ziwen's back was zero. Gu Ci looked at Lu Ziwen and made a decision. She couldn't sit still and wait for death. She went out first. Find someone to rescue Lu Ziwen. If you delay for one more minute, Lu Ziwen will be in more danger. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 379. Chapter 379 Death Racing. She checked Lu Ziwen's bracelet, watch and other items to make sure there were no trackers. She couldn't help but frown, wondering why he didn't have a tracker on him. Gu Ci held Lu Ziwen's head. His face was bloodless and his lips were pale. Gu Ci's heart ached slightly. She kissed Lu Ziwen and said softly, Lu Ziwen, Wait for me. When a person dies, love and hate will disappear, which is meaningless. Gu Si let him go and tried to climb up the cave. There was a lot of moss on the rock wall and it was slippery. Gu Si failed to climb up after several attempts. Once, he almost fell onto Lu Ziwen, causing him secondary injury. When Gu Si tried to climb up for the nth time, she fell down again. Suddenly, Lu Ziwen coughed and woke up leisurely. Gu Si looked at him in disbelief and quickly climbed to his side. Third brother, are you awake? Does it hurt? Her eyes were red, her hands were covered with scratches from climbing, and they were stained with blood. She was crying and laughing at the same time. She knew she looked like a madman, but she couldn't care less. What's wrong with your hand? Lu Ziwen looked at the scarred palm with pity in his eyes. It's okay, just a little scratch. Where are you? Does it hurt a lot? She wiped away Lu Ziwen's cold sweat. I tried to climb up to find the rescuers. This location is remote, and even if they search and rescue, they may not be able to rescue them. Lu Ziwen held her hand. The piece of glass had hit his back when the car fell. He had not said anything. In order to protect Gu Si when he fell, there were many blood marks on his body. Lu Ziwen didn't care. He looking at Gu Si's palm, she felt very distressed. Idiot, just wake me up. He stood up with some difficulty. Gu Si supported him, and Lu Ziwen said, hold me tight. Gu Si hugged him tightly. Just in the blink of an eye, Lu Ziwen had already carried Gu Si up to the mountain forest. As soon as he landed, Lu Ziwen spit out a mouthful of blood. Gu Si's eyes were so red that he asked, is teleporting harmful to the body? If it doesn't hurt you, why didn't you just carry her out in the woods last night? It doesn't matter, Lu Ziwen was furious. Gu Si carried him on her back and walked out without saying a word. They had the accident in the south of the valley, but now they are in the north of the valley. There are many poisonous insects here and the road is difficult to walk. When Gu Si carried him out of the forest, his waist and legs were basically scratched. She kept talking to Lu Ziwen along the way to keep him conscious, and Lu Ziwen also managed to hold on for a breath without fainting. In the past, after leaving the valley, there was no village or shop in front of or behind, and the sun was shining in the sky. Gu Si took a look at the direction and walked towards City A. This mountain is more than 50 kilometers away from the city center and is a suburb. There are also many towns in the suburbs. The closer to the city, the more towns there are. Gu Si carried him through a field with difficulty and stopped the car at the roadside. It was a man who drove a van. He worked all year round and had dark skin. Gu Si was penniless. Fortunately, Lu Ziwen's watch was still worth some money. She hoped that the man could take them to the nearest hospital. The man was not willing to send them away, but seeing that Lu Ziwen was injured and his life was hanging by a thread, he had no choice but to agree. Gu Si made up an excuse, saying that they were going camping and fell into the valley and were injured. The man also mentioned that someone had killed someone last night. There was an accident and they fell into the valley. There was a big fuss. The valley was full of people, but they were not found. Gu Si said, we were just injured. Lu Ziwen was very conscious and asked the man for his cell phone. Brother, can I borrow your phone? The man gave the phone to Lu Ziwen. Lu Ziwen called Ji Sun and informed him of the location. Ji Sun was ecstatic. Third master, just wait. Our people will be here soon. There are 2 teams of people on the edge of the valley. It only takes 15 minutes. Okay. After Lu Ziwen called, Gu Si stopped calling Zhang Junlin. Ji Sun knew about it, and Zhang Junlin probably knew about it too. However, before they arrived at the town hospital, several cars came out of the intersection ahead and crossed in front of them. Lu Ziwen and Gu Si looked at each other and their expressions darkened. The man had a bad temper and was stopped by someone on the road. He got out of the car to argue. Gu Ci let go of Lu Ziwen and climbed from the back seat to the driver's seat. When the man went to argue with them, Gu Ci put the gear into gear, reversed the car and quickly drove on the road. After turning around and leaving, the man heard the sound of the car and chased Gu Ci wildly. "Hey, my car, you guys." He wanted to call the police, but remembered that his cell phone was still in the car. The two cars quickly overtook the man and caught up with Gu Ci. Lu Ziwen took the man's phone and dialed Ji Sun's number. "Gu Ci and I were discovered, license plate A3DS63, on Provincial Highway 258. New." Lu Ziwen's information was simultaneously transmitted to the information room. Wrongly sent someone to follow them and located their location in 3 minutes. "Third Master, the 3 cars in front are all our people. They are 1 kilometer ahead of you." The van was a bit old and not very fast. It was soon overtaken. One of the vans was running parallel to Gu Ci and suddenly hit Gu Ci. The van was light and old and was flattened in an instant. Gu Ci held his own. The car body accelerated forward crazily. The 2 cars attacked from the left and the right. The iron sheets rubbed against each other, making a harsh sound, and sparks scattered. The car window was rolled down, and a gun was pointed at them. Lu Ziwen and Gu Ci lay down. The bullet shattered the car window and passed through their heads. Gu Ci couldn't care about them. He stepped on the accelerator to the maximum and moved forward crazily. "Third Master, are you okay?" Ji Xian was shocked when he saw the racing scene from the surveillance camera. If there was a car in front of them, they would all be hit and killed. Wrongly glanced at his position and saw that the 2 sides were about to collide head-on. He had a team of 3 cars, all in front, and they would arrive in just 2 minutes. But the 2 cars in front kept attacking the van. This crispy van couldn't withstand it at all. Wrongly said coldly, "The Third Master is 500 meters ahead, hit me." This is a dead order. But the speed of Gu Ci and the enemy in front were both over 150, so if they collided with each other, the car would be destroyed and everyone would be killed. "Receive. Receive." The 2 cars at the front responded, and the guard's voice was calm and firm. The 2 cars, one behind the other, quickly moved forward in parallel, occupying 2 lanes, and vacating the middle lane. Even if he died, he would have to knock away the vehicle attacking Lu Ziwen. Gu Ci also saw the car coming from ahead, and it also rammed towards them at full speed. Their 3 cars occupied all the lanes, and the other car left the middle lane free. But if they hit it, they would definitely die, and their bones would be shattered. The 2 vehicles attacking Gu Ci and Lu Ziwen were also discovered. The brave one wins when they meet on a narrow road. It depends on who is more afraid of death. The enemies in these 2 vehicles are also hardcore. Even if they did not slow down, they still attacked Lu Ziwen and Gu Ci. At the moment when they were about to collide, the vehicle on the right finally panicked and turned the steering wheel and rushed towards the field. However, the car on Gu Ci's left did not move at all and hit the vehicle of the Black Hawk guards. It was traveling too fast. The collision was so violent that the 2 cars fell off the driveway together, and the car was destroyed instantly. The Black Hawk guard's car had been modified and was very strong, but it still could not withstand such a violent impact. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 380. Chapter 380. Dad looks like he's about to die. Gu Ci stepped on the accelerator and stopped in the driveway. A 3rd secret guard car parked beside them. 3 people got out and quickly came to protect them and escorted them to their own car. There was no need for Ji Sun to give any more orders. The 3 men protected Lu Ziwen and Gu Ci. The car that rushed into the field quickly fled the scene and fled in another direction. Wrongly sent people to follow them. Lu Ziwen also quickly lost consciousness. When he woke up, he was already in the hospital. It was completely dark. The glass on Lu Ziwen's back had been removed. He had lost too much blood and was not seriously injured. When he woke up, Gu Si and Ziyu were both in the ward. Gu Si also changed into clean clothes. She had a lot of scratches on her body, which were all flesh wounds. They were nothing compared to Lu Ziwen. The mother and son were lying on the edge of the sofa and fell asleep. The moonlight fell on them, very gently. Lu Ziwen had a kind of the years are quiet and peaceful. He coughed twice, which alarmed Gu Si. She quickly came to the hospital bed, raised the height of the bed, and said softly, "The glass has been taken out, and the other injuries are just flesh and blood wounds, nothing serious. Do you feel any discomfort?" Apart from pain and a slight feeling of weightlessness, it was nothing. This feeling of weightlessness was caused by excessive blood loss. Lu Ziwen looked at her hand, which was wrapped in gauze and could see a little blood. Gu Si said softly, "It doesn't hurt either for flesh injuries." Lu Ziwen controlled the emotions and pain in his heart. "Xiao Si, I scared you." "I'm not scared." Gu Si looked at Lu Ziwen's face in confusion. The face of a person who has lost too much blood should be white and haggard, but Lu Ziwen's face is more like symptoms of poisoning, with some purple color. Gu Si asked worriedly, "Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere?" Lu Ziwen shook his head and said softly, "Except for some pain, I feel fine." "Are Ji Sun and Rong Li outside?" Ji Xian and Rong Li were both waiting outside. Black Eagle had something to deal with. Although she and Zia were relatives, their status was very special, so it was not appropriate to stay for a long time. Gu Si said, "I'm here. Just be fine." She woke up Ziu, but Gu Ziu was still a little sleepy. He was very surprised to see Lu Ziwen wake up. "Dad, are you okay?" "It's okay." Lu Ziwen gently touched Gu Ziu's head. "Don't worry." Gu Ziu rushed to hug him. "Can't you fly? Why are you still injured like this? It's not cool at all." Lu Ziwen couldn't help but laugh. His son's childish words made his pain lessen. "Ziyu, let's go home first, Dad has something to deal with." "Dad, let's go first." "Okay." Lu Ziwen watched the mother and son leave the ward. A mouthful of blood that had been stuck in his throat suddenly spurted out, staining the white sheets with a large red stain. He heard the voices of Gu Si and Ziyu, and he held it back. Gu Si took Gu Ziu and Rong Li, and Ji Xian said hello and left. As soon as Ji Xian and Rong Li entered the room, they saw the dazzling red on the sheets. Their expressions changed, and they rang the bell to call the doctor. Lu Ziwen stopped him. "Don't shout, wait for them to leave." "Third Master, how long have you been holding on?" Rong Li was furious and turned to find the doctor. Gu Si and Zia were still waiting for the elevator. Lu Ziwen shouted urgently, "Come back. His injury cannot be cured by doctors." Rong Li stood still in front of the door, so angry that he wanted to smash the door. After Gu Si and Zia entered the elevator, Ji Xian hurriedly rang the bell. Lu Ziwen knew that ringing the bell would not help. They were not good at treating this disease, so he didn't say anything. "So that Ji Sun and Rong Li don't have to worry. This is the most vicious curse, and the curse has come true again." Gu Si took a step closer to him, and he felt pain as if his heart was being ripped out of his bones. As long as they love each other, this curse cannot be broken without death. Qin Wan was waiting for Gu Si downstairs. She failed to pick up Gu Si on Lantern Festival night, which led to this disaster. Although Zhang Junlin did not scold her, Qin Wan learned from the pain and will definitely follow Gu Si 24 hours a day in the future. Gu Si had already told North and Little Cherry that they were safe. Although Qin Wan didn't show any annoyance, Gu Si could understand her. "Qin Wan, don't take it to heart. It's just a little flesh wound, it's not a problem. If I had gone to pick you up, this wouldn't have happened. You pick me up, and I will follow Lu Ziwen." Gu Si was thinking about other things, so she didn't say much to Qinhuan, don't take it to heart. She looked out the window and remembered the weird thing about Lu Ziwen when he was in the valley. After teleporting, he vomited blood one after another. He never looked good. He lost too much blood and could not walk steadily. He said he could walk by himself, but Gu Si saw she kept holding his heart as if he was about to faint, so she insisted on carrying him. When he was lying on her shoulder, he was still in a daze. When he was in pain and confused, she seemed to hear Lu Ziwen shouting in pain. He is Lu Ziwen. As a racing driver, I bumped into each other during training and never cried out for pain. After the car accident, I walked around the gate of and didn't hear him cry out for pain. As the third master, he was patient and restrained. He would never cry out for pain just for a little injury. The third young master is like a butterfly, he just wants to show his best side in front of her, and he is not likely to cry out if he is hurt. He was in pain somewhere, so painful that he couldn't help shouting out in a daze. Later, after teleporting out, he vomited blood again. Will there be any backlash from his teleportation? Why is he always injured? I have never seen him get injured during the previous teleportations. Gu Si is a doctor and can understand a person's physical condition very well. Just now Lu Ziwen was lying on the bed, looking breathless, which always made her feel uncomfortable. He lost too much blood, this shouldn't be like this. Back to Lanshan Villa and saw Zhang Junlin's car, Gu Si secretly thought, it's over, her brother is going to scold her. Ji Sun has told Zhang Junlin all about Gu Si's situation, and he knows that she is not seriously injured. Does it hurt? Gu Si shook her head. She didn't dare to complain about the pain, they are just scratches. I'm quite confident the two of us ran up the mountain to look at the stars and the moon without taking anyone with us. This was the first time that Zhang Junlin had a weird look on Gu Si. Gu Si gave up and said, brother, I was wrong. I won't do it again, I promise. Didn't you break up? Zhang Junlin asked, does your state look like a breakup? Even if we break up, we can still be friends. This is quite novel. Gu Si asked, then you and Ji Sun break up, don't you plan to be friends? Zhang Junlin looked sullen, and Qinhuan said, brothers and sisters, please don't hurt each other. Isn't it that the third master's injury is more serious? He deserves it. Zhang Junlin didn't sympathize with Lu Ziwen at all. To sympathize with the enemy was to seek abuse. Gu Zio said aggrievedly, my father is quite pitiful, he looks like he is about to die. Gu Si frowned and looked at him. Gu Zio slapped his mouth with his little hand and said, Mom, Tong Yan Wuji. Don't glare at me, I'm so mean. Father is indeed the person whom mother loves most. Gu Si was not angry. It was Gu Zio's words that reminded her that Lu Ziwen did look like he was about to die. She had seen the medical records and the operation process while Lu Ziwen was asleep. There's no reason to be hurt so badly. End of this chapter.